Joining me today are Cara Phillips, Deputy Editor of Messenger Community News, and Greg Barila, the online editor. Thanks for joining me, guys.
G'day, Helen.
Thank you.
Now, the fire siren at Athelston in the Adelaide foothills, it's been an ongoing cause of controversy, but now residents are speaking out, and they're speaking out very, very loudly, guys.
They certainly are, Helen. We've launched a survey to actually gauge support or just see what the feeling is in that area regarding the possible reinstatement of the fire siren at the Athelston CFS. Hasn't been used for some years. You'll recall we've discussed in the past the fire that happened at the Black Hill Conservation Park back in December. Some of the residents there were concerned they didn't get adequate warning. They were relying on neighbours and barking dogs and things like that to get the warning of that fire. So we've actually launched this survey just to help the CFS get that feedback.
And look, they've listened, and we've had an overwhelming response online in just a really short time. More than 200 people have written us letters or voted in the poll on our website saying, well, largely in support of having that siren switched back on to warn them of oncoming danger if there is another blaze this summer.
So why isn't the siren turned on at the moment?
It was turned off about 10 years ago because the CFS had other means of communicating with each other, and it was actually originally used to warn the CFS that they needed to get up there and fight a fire, and I guess it had that double barrel effect of actually warning residents as well. So it hasn't been used for, I think it's about a decade.
And there are sometimes concerns about when the siren's being tested, whether that creates false alarms and that sort of thing for people.
And false panic.
Yeah, so there really need to be some strict guidelines about when it's used and when it's tested and those sorts of issues.
It's interesting. I was reading today about the Deputy Mayor of Adelaide. He's suggested people in Adelaide billeting people in other areas when there's days of catastrophic fire danger.
Yes.
Absolutely. There's people up in the hills that obviously don't necessarily have family down here on the plains that they can come and stay with when those catastrophic days happen. So it's an interesting idea.
It is
It'd
very
be interesting to see
idea.
how many
It'd be
people.
a strange concept taking in a family for a
I know.
day.
I hope you get a good family. Anyway, moving over to the northeast now, and it's fees that are stirring passions over there.
Yes, it is. The Tea Tree Gully Council is currently reviewing its fees for community and sporting clubs. So for as long as we can all remember, they've actually been very, very generous with what they charge sporting clubs to use their facilities. A lot of other councils in Adelaide aren't as nice. What they're saying now is, though, they're going to get it in line with everyone else and hike those fees up. And we're talking things that can go from like $100 to $30,000 a year. So these are huge hikes, and the clubs are saying, come on, if we want to encourage sport in our communities and that community atmosphere, then we actually need to support our clubs.
And the issue seems to be that if clubs have a rent hike, then they'll have to pass those fee increases on to members of the clubs and people participating in sports, which in turn could mean people leaving clubs. So it would have a detrimental effect on sport participation in those local areas. So we've launched a campaign called Help Us Play, which is all about trying to keep these rents low for these local sporting and community clubs because we recognise they are important.
It's really important to keep these alive. Now, speaking of money and day jobs, and people often think that journalism is a very glamorous job. I'm not sure whether all of us would agree with that at all times. Now, but there are the odd perks now and again, of course, as one of your reporters discovered recently.
That's right. Our East Torrens reporter, Caitlin Nelligan, had the envious job of eating her way through a new food tour in Campbelltown. So that's in Adelaide's northeast.
Yeah, she wrote an account of her tour that involved her going around to various food places in Campbelltown, and she got to taste quite a few things. She started with gelati, then she moved on to some homemade fudge, and then she ate some local produce, some cherries, which she described as being as big as golf balls. So they sound pretty good to me. There's a local pasta manufacturer there, and she got to taste pasta with a vodka sauce, if you can believe that. And then she moved on and tasted some juices from the local Italian grocer there. So it's a really good sort of snapshot of the different types of food in that area.
Definitely.
And look, I can vouch for the gelati in the northeastern suburbs. There are some awesome gelati shops, some great Italian restaurants in there as well. It's got a huge Italian community. So fantastic. To read about all of that, go to www.messengernews.com.au.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen.